with that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Thomas, who writes, "Hi, everyone. It's been announced that the Oscar ceremony will go without a host for the second year in a row. I'm fine with this, as last year's ceremony was one of my favorites. What do you think of this news?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, as we all remember, last year was a total cluster F last year with everything that went on prior to the Oscars. They ended up on the decision not to have a host. I didn't like the decision. I didn't like the decision last year to not have a host. But that being said, they did the show, and the show was actually pretty good. The show was actually pretty good, and it seemed to work okay without a host. Now, I still prefer a host, because I think if you got a good host, it can, like, you got a Billy Crystal hosting or whatever, or something like that. When you have a good host hosting something, the way Tina Fey and Amy Poehler used to host the Golden Globes, the way Ricky Gervais just hosted the Golden Globes. I mean, when you have a good host or team of hosts, one of these shows can really sing. When you don't have the right hosts, however, it can really go in the tank. And then when you have no host, it kind of evens itself out a little bit and it can go perfectly fine. Rob, I got to tell you, I'm not surprised that they decided to go without a host again this year. Now, I believe we are going to get back to having a host every year for the Oscars. But I feel like the Academy looked at it and said, you know what, we're still in the midst of whoever we announce right now to be a host, everybody's going to start digging through every tweet they ever sent out since they were 16 years old, and people are going to look to tear them down and destroy them, and we're going to have a problem getting the hosts we want because individuals won't want to be subject to that sort of scrutiny and blah, 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 blah. So I'm not surprised, actually, that they decide, let's give it another year. As a matter of fact, I won't be surprised if they even go another year. I won't be surprised if we don't have an Oscar host next year as well. I do think they will get back to it, but I feel like they want to take a couple of years, so I am not surprised at all. And you know what? I'm not worried about it. Because even though, like I said, I prefer a good host for the Oscars, the fact of the matter is the show flowed just fine without it last year, so I have no problem with them doing it this year, and I'm not surprised at all. Rob, 2 different questions here. Are you surprised they're going without a host this year? And do you like or not like the idea of them going without a host?
Well, on one hand, like you, I mean, I like Oscar hosts. I like, especially with the Academy channel on YouTube, you can go and look at all the old hosts and the bits of the days of yore. And there's something, a good host, like the days of Bob Hope, brought an elegance to it. And I've always liked that. But in this day and age, unfortunately, it's too much of the aggravation. Why put yourself up? You want to be celebrating the movies and the art form, and in the world we live in, everybody's going to go after you, which seems sort of strange. So they really don't have a choice. I mean, it's our culture today that has forced them into this, which I think is a shame. But that said, last year's show was good, you know, and in not having one host, they'll bring other people out to sort of MC various sections of the show. You still get that star-studded feel. And maybe we get to see it's a different kind of a format, but I think it works. They made it work last year. And if the show is on par with what we got last year, we'll get a good award show. And I think that's really ultimately, at the end of the day, what's most important. But I don't think that capitulating to the world, the era in which we live in, is necessarily good for any of us. But that said, it's better that they don't have a cloud hanging over the Academy Awards going into it. So,
yeah, they don't want that. I think either next year or 2 years from now, like I said, I think we're going to have this little break where they're not having a host. And then their first year, whether it's next year or the year after, that they do bring in a host again, I think they're going to go with a very safe choice. Like an Ellen. Or because they've had Ellen host a couple times. It was, blah, blah. Listen, I love Ellen DeGeneres. I do. I'm not a big fan of her as an Oscar host. While I think she's absolutely hilarious and fantastic, I haven't been a big fan of her hosting the Oscars, but she went over very well with an awful lot of people. Somebody like that. Somebody like, hey, listen, last time things went off the rails, and I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. Last time things went off the rails with the Oscars when they had Anne Hathaway and James Franco host. which is, oh my God, who will ever forget that? But the last time it went off the rails, the very following year, this is what the Oscar does. They fell back to what's safe for 1 year, and they went to Billy Crystal. So I don't know if they go out and get Billy Crystal back. I don't know if they do something really safe like a George Clooney hosting. I don't know if they, but I do think when they bring back a host, their first pick will be somebody that is known, that is safe, to ease back into it, and then maybe go a little bit more radical later. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Question is, guys, what do you think about the fact that the Oscars are going to go hostless again this year? Maybe like last year was one of your favorite Oscars and you love this news. Maybe you're surprised by it. Maybe you're not. How do you feel about it right now? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.